There have been a series of definitely unrelated and totally probably coincidental disruptions happening to shows today, Mike, but it's doubtful that anything like that will happen right now because we're just going to be talking about recipes and crocheting and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know what happened with our podcast today. Apple wasn't serving the podcast, and they got hit too hard. I can't think that Apple got hit too hard, so something was fishy with that all day. So whatever, we're used to it. Hey, we're if you've been on Twitter for a long time, you're used to getting tossed around like a rag doll. So you just
Yeah.
work through it. You know what I mean? You just work
You-
through it.
You're talking, of course, Mike, about your explosive top 10 podcast, the Thomas Paine podcast. You had a special edition today with an exclusive interview with a top AIDS researcher that pretty much everybody has heard of. She worked under Anthony Fauci. We're talking about Dr. Judy Mikovits, and people can tune in on iTunes or Google Podcasts or wherever they get podcasts from, and they can hear that. Do you want to, well, what do we want to do? You want to give people a little overview of what was discussed there and what we're going to be talking about tonight when we get on to our sponsor exclusive show on patreon.com/truepundit, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Did you see this news item that the CEO of YouTube said that anything on YouTube that goes against WHO guidelines would be removed?
What are you supposed to do with these tyrants? It's remember that we used to have sea monkeys? Did you ever have sea monkeys as a kid?
I mean, you could order them from the comics, but I thought it was a scam.
Yeah, it was, but you put a little bit of water in them and they're really small,
Yeah, it's like shrimp or something.
and then they grow into these big like sponges. This is what these people are like, these they're sea monkey tyrants. You give them a little bit of power and they just blow up like sea monkeys. You know what I mean? And you have to take a step back and two things. I want to break some news tonight on the Patreon show. We're going to have some good news and a preamble to what's coming in True Pundit tomorrow about Fauci, and it's kind of a big deal, right? Like Ron Burgundy, it's kind of a big deal. But but these guys, right? Jason, you went on Crowdsource the Truth so you can avoid these cement heads running YouTube. And when you talk to a guy like Zach Voorhees, one of the senior programmers for Google and YouTube, you find out how rigged it is, right? So if people are still getting on YouTube and they're trying to get monetized and they're conservatives, don't waste your time. Like, get another platform, build another platform.
Mike, it's not even about getting monetized. They won't even let you gain any traction to get an audience. See, this is what a lot of people still don't grasp. They think that somehow you and I, or any of the co-hosts that come on Crowdsource the Truth, are doing something that we shouldn't be doing by saying, hey, come on to patreon.com and join us on either True Pundit or Crowdsource the Truth, where we can actually, it's like a paid service. This is exactly like when we were little kids and cable TV was coming out. A lot of people don't remember that, but I do remember a salesman for Cablevision came to the house and my father literally said, "Pay for TV, are you crazy?" He thought it was outrageous because at that time, all the TV was free, paid for by ads.
Get out of here, you vagabond.
You got HBO, which would give you unedited movies, and if you wanted to listen to stuff with language that the FCC said was not okay for you to hear, you had to pay to access it. It's the same thing that we're doing with the sponsor exclusive shows.
Well, it's more than that, really, because you have, I don't know, I can't even keep up with your shows. You're firing shows out like a wild man, and then it's not like it's slop. It's good stuff because you get like involved. You had one with Cody Snodgrass on the other day, and
Ole Damagard.
Ole Damagard about Oklahoma City, and it's so funny because, and it was very interesting. And why it was interesting, and I just do a plug for your show because what the hell? But what was that? That was Monday?
Yeah, Ole, Light on Conspiracies with Ole Damagard is another sponsor exclusive show on Mondays, but we had a preview And Cody was one of the black operators who was approached about doing the bombing in Oklahoma
I know, but
City.
listen, this is crazy. Sunday, it was about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night on Sunday, which was the anniversary of Oklahoma City, the 19th of April, 25th anniversary. It was 95. I said, you know what? I'm going to call this. Whoops, some people get mad on the YouTube when I drop an F-bomb. So I'm going to call this the guy who was the site commander for the FBI, Bob Ricks. Okay, I'm going to call him in Oklahoma, and I want to pick his brain about Oklahoma City and see what he thinks, because I had just watched this crazy show on Netflix called Waco. It's a 6-part miniseries about Koresh and the.
Damn it, there you go. Mike, hang on, we lost you. This has been happening all day. Stand by. Wait, can you hear me? Hang on, Mike. Something's happening. We got no sound on you. Man, this has been happening all day. Can you hear me still? Okay, wait. Oh, no, here we go. I had it over here. Can we hear you now? I'm trying to make a resilient system that can resist these crashes, but the problem is it's difficult to do. Let's see. Can I hear you, Mike? Not hearing you. Damn it. Okay, I think now I'll hear you.
Okay, this is better, right?
Well, no, this is way worse, but it gives me an opportunity to restart the computer that just crashed. It's amazing. I sit in here all day with these computers running and there's no problem. The second you mention Waco and the FBI, you freeze up. Does that seem coincidental?
Not really, considering what the hell happened in Waco.
Yeah. Give me 1 second and I'll bring you back in here. I'm working on a much better system that'll allow me to do this on the fly without walking around the apartment. But while we're restarting there, tell us what that conversation was all about.
Well, I called Bob. I said, yo, what's going on? Because, he worked in Newark. I worked in Newark. We know a lot of guys, right? So I said, what really happened with McVeigh? And because I want to know from the guy who was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
180-degree difference from what Cody said. It was just very by the book and that kind of stuff. But I mostly wanted to pick his brain about Waco because I watched this miniseries. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched this miniseries, and I said, you know what? It was like 8 o'clock on Sunday, and I said, I'll watch an episode and see if I like it. Right? I smoked through it. I binge watched it. I was like, this is crazy. It was such an insane. And I knew a lot about Waco, but it seemed kind of one-sided. So I wanted to call him, and we were on the phone for a long time, and I eventually put him on the podcast. I don't know when. We're kind of backed up now, but it's a 180-degree difference. Like, he really didn't think they did anything wrong in Waco.
Wow.
I mean, he kind of does, but he's such a company guy. He's not going to say anything, and it's like, I'm trying to get him to talk. I want the guy to talk. He's 75. It's like, yo, what happened? And what did you do wrong? And like, well, we did a couple things wrong. But I'm like, just a couple?
Yeah. Sorry, hang on, Mike. Yeah. We're going to be on in just a second here. You see, I don't have a smooth transition yet. We got you back.
We'll get it worked out. I never get upset about these things. I'm talking all day now. You're talking all day. So what's like 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes? Who cares?
Okay. We're back.
What are we talking about?
Talking about Waco, and we're talking about Cody Snodgrass and how he was telling everybody what was going down in Oklahoma City.
Well, I had a good talk with Bob. He was the former special agent in charge of Oklahoma City, and he was also in charge of the Waco siege. But it's like night and day when it's black and white. You get a guy like Cody, he tells you this crazy stuff, not so crazy when you're on a contractor. And then you talk to Bob, the FBI, and he's like, no, man, McVeigh was a complete maniac, and we were watching him for a long, and it's just such contrast. And like, where do you find the balance with such contrasting stories, and especially with Waco too? So I'll have him on the podcast at some point. We had an interesting talk. I called him cold, so he kind of freaked out, because these old timers are like, "Who are you? What are you with? Where'd you work?" And it's like, "Who do you know?" Because you tell them, "Oh yeah, I worked in Newark." I worked in Newark. Who do you know? And you gotta like, if you don't say the right language, like guy hangs up on you. He thinks you're like probably trying to set him up or something. These guys are really ultra paranoid. But I just thought it was funny. On a whim, the next day I'm watching your show, and it's about Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did it because of the anniversary, and that'll be interesting for people to hear when the FBI agent gets on to the Thomas Paine podcast. A lot of people have been looking at TruePundit.com as well, Mike. You've been breaking stories. Last week on the podcast, you spoke to Robert Kennedy Jr., and that feeds right into the conversation on today's special podcast that you released a little bit early. Dr. Judy Mikovits was part of the team that was working under Anthony Fauci, and she discovered some really disturbing stuff in some of the tissue they were using to grow these viruses to create vaccines. It was remarkably similar to the story that we've heard from Judith Very Baker about the work that she did under Alton Oshner. What she thought was curing cancer, but she learned was actually weaponizing cancer. Robert Kennedy even referred to cancer-causing viruses that were causing leukemia and all kinds of things. What do you think about all that?
I think that somehow I started covering a coronavirus, and I'm in the middle of some kind of shitstorm. That's what I think. But I've been here before, and I enjoy this kind of stuff. I enjoy like a deep digs and talking to people. And the beauty of like stuff on Patreon and podcasts is you don't have to. I can talk to her for 2 hours and just let her talk. There's no rush. I don't have to cut her off. And when you're on TV, it's like we got 30 seconds. Say what you got to say. You get the final word. It's like 30 seconds. How are you supposed to compete in 30 seconds to try to get a message across? So it's great. She gets to talk, she gets to tell her story. And I don't think she's really told that kind of story to anybody. I think we're the first ones in. And I always get more out of people than you can ever imagine because I just do. I like talking to people. For me, it's never like a laborious where it's like I feel like a robot. What I try to do is talk to people beforehand and get a rapport so that when I get on with them, it's not like it was with the FBI guy. Like
right.
When I was talking, the guy was like, now he loosened up after a while when I started using the right lingo. You know what I mean? But it took him a while, and so it's good. Her story is a complete nightmare. I mean, I can't even believe that what this woman's been through, and it's a story. It's another. Fauci ripped her off twice, stole her research twice, and the first time he took credit for it, she basically was a pioneer in HIV/AIDS with another doctor named Dr. Rossetti. Fauci, they were going to publish a paper of those two under the flag of the NIH. Fauci delayed it, and then he handed the research off to a buddy of his who published the paper first. It's like they would have been pioneers in HIV/AIDS. Instead, this guy Gallo, he publishes it, and he's like a cocky hero. I've been researching this guy, and who does this Gallo go into business with? Redfield, who runs the CDC. They start this virology clinic at the University of Maryland. They get 600, 700 million in donations. A lot of that's come from Bill Gates. So, these guys are controlling the CDC.
Unbelievable.
It's insane, and that's just a small piece of it. I mean, what happened to Dr. Judy is Fauci had her locked up and in prison.
Well, that's the part I was listening to, and it really felt like you had a rapport with her because you know what that's all about, to have that kind of legal pressure put on you. I mean, obviously the goal is to present this to the public that, oh, this is some crazy lady that went to jail. But behind the scenes, when you dig into the story and understand what's going on, that is not the case at all. We've got a couple people asking, Mike, how to listen to the podcast. People can just search the internet for Thomas Paine Podcast or Thomas Paine Podcast iTunes if you have an iPhone or an Apple device. But you can get it anywhere that podcasts are. And Thomas Paine Podcast is the name of it. Another really convenient way to get to it is if you're on TruePundit.com, a lot of the stories have a link to it. So if it's relevant to the story that you're reading on TruePundit.com, you can get it right here in line with the article. We're going to be breaking some new information that's not on True Pundit right now or the podcast. Isn't that right, Mike, when we transition in just about 15 minutes to Patreon.com?
Yeah, we're going to do some interesting stuff here tonight about Fauci, and it'll be breaking tomorrow. But, you and I, when we get on here, we like to give our folks, and I call them our folks because it's like I talk to these guys every day. You talk to your guys every day. Your supporters, you're always chatting with them and stuff. We like to give them first crack at this stuff because it's just the way it is.
They make it happen. We couldn't do this show without the sponsor support.
Yeah, I like the setup. It's like normally it's like more pain. And then I finish my podcast after I get off air with you. And then it comes down the next day and that kind of thing. And then boom, comes out in True Pundit on Wednesday. And then I cite more pain and I cite the podcast. And then we feed off that for 1 or 2 or 3 days. It's been a great groove. So we had to go a day early because there's too many people that want to talk to Dr. Mikovits. So
yeah. You don't want to get scooped.
I don't want to get scooped, but I got stories coming out on this for the next 2 or 3 days. So we're ahead of it. We're ahead of the pack, and that's where I want to be. I want to be obviously ahead of the pack. Although she would probably, and I say it on the podcast, and I've talked to her about it, she would probably tell me more than anybody else because I've been through it. So
yeah. You get it.
It's like I get it. And nobody can understand it unless you've been through it. Like, going against these guys and being arrested and they try to ruin you and they basically try to kill you. We've talked about this. Right. And she agrees. They try to get you to kill yourself so they don't have to do it. And and it's insane. And she's a top pioneer in research. And they threw her away like she was a piece of garbage. And then there's much more to the story we'll talk about tonight. And
there's not too many people that could withstand that, Mike. It takes a very strong, person, mentally, physically, financially. There's a lot of ways that, as you're saying,
man.
You go bankrupt. Oh, she is bankrupt.
She's bankrupt, yeah. So she's trying to rebuild, and she's trying to rebuild. It's a long road back, and
she's watching the TV every day, and this scumbag is on there with the President of the United States dictating public health policy, telling everybody what to do, making sure everybody's got their masks on, opposing clinical trials of therapies so that he can pave the way for a vaccine with a chip that guarantees that you're inoculated and could prevent you access from places if you're not.
She's talking with this guy, okay? Cover-ups, fraud, research, stealing research, pay to play. This guy is a menace. This guy should be locked up. We're going to talk about that tonight. What happened with this guy when it comes to that with the feds, right? Little hint. But and I asked her, I said, how do you feel watching this guy on TV telling you how to live your life? And she's just like, it's surreal. It's beyond surreal. It's twisted. It's like a terrible dream. This guy is a maniac.
Yeah. Because I think most people, Mike, they spend their lives thinking that if they go around doing the right thing, things will just go their way. And when you wind up like Dr. Mikovits and she had to spend tons of money just to get the degrees and become the scientist and PhD that she was, and to just have that all go away, it's You can't just reset that. No undo button.
You can't reset it because Fauci controls all the grants in the country for scientists. National Institute of Health. If you get blacklisted like she did on the grants, who's going to pay you to do research? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Mike,
you want to talk about cartel?
We've got an LA Kings fan saying that the link on True Pundit doesn't work. I was listening to it just before from the link on True Pundit, so maybe there's a few.
There's two links on True Pundit. There's one at the top of the story and there's one at the bottom. We put a backup link. So
there's been a lot of stuff going on today. We're just about to transition over to the sponsor exclusive segment. That's going to be on patreon.com/TruePundit, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. So people can access the podcast by going to truepundit.com and clicking on the story about Dr. Fauci. There's a link at the top, there's a link at the bottom. If you have a problem with those links, just Google Thomas Paine Podcast or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you prefer. But Mike, I'll see you in less than 10 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar, and we'll really get into it.
We're going to have some fun tonight like we always do.
Absolutely. And a big thanks to all of the generous Patreon and Subscribestar sponsors. If you are subscribed to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, please visit patreon.com/truepundit. I can't do these shows without the co-hosts, and we've specifically tried to keep the monthly subscription fee as low as possible so as many people can access this information without trolls doing, strike attacks and taking the videos out, and now without YouTube itself eliminating the information because they simply disagree with it. So we'll see everybody over there on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thanks for tuning in.